I guess Thragg is the real and new main character of the show now. Also, I'm going to need every single Thragg hater out there to sign this apology form before you watch any further. That's right, go pay your respects to our Grand Regent and then come back. But in all seriousness, folks, the penultimate episode of Invincible Season 4 really felt like it could have been the ultimate and final episode. With everything that happened and the way the episode ends without a post-credit scene made it feel like a final episode. But we still have one more to go. This episode was totally insane from start to finish, and it had me on the edge of my seat each time a punch was thrown. Even if you knew nothing about Invincible and you watched this episode, you would no doubt feel the sheer gravity and tension it brings to the table. And on that note, spoiler warning, you fools, do not watch this video if you have yet to watch this episode or Invincible as a whole, okay? Got it? Good. Glad we got that all cleared up. Much like in the second episode of this season, let us start things off by taking a dive into the Viltromite past. This episode opens showing us a civilization resisting the old, early Viltromite Empire. We cut over to the old council, and I really do mean old because this is when Thetis was still on their side. Except he isn't truly on their side, not really. When trying to figure out what to do about this display of resistance, Thetis, of course, counsels restraint and mercy, and, to hold back on the whole cruelty thing. The late and not so great Emperor Argal questions what young Thraggers thinks about this mess. He, of course, sides with his emperor and advises further cruelty and violence. Thetis tries to counter him, even pulling the classic "you're still young and don't see the long game" card. But as we all know the Viltromites by now, and if you don't, it means you ignored my spoiler warning. You could have been an Invincible fan, but instead you chose to be. The point is, Argal cracks down on the cruelty, and Thetis gets so fed up with it at this point that he murders Argal when he's all alone, leaving Thragg to assume the throne until one of Argal's heirs can be found. And do you know what his first act is as Grand Regent? The very first thing he does as soon as he inherits this grand responsibility? He initiates the goddamn Great Purge. Even the kids aren't exempt from the violence. Just when you thought Viltromite cruelty couldn't go any further, am I right? Someone please count the amount of times we have collectively said this to ourselves throughout the entirety of the show. I would love to know how many times we've said this. Also, it would seem Amazon finally did the right thing and brought back the X-ray feature. Thank the high heavens. And during this dramatic scene where we see the Great Purge firsthand, I think it is so funny that if you hit the X-ray button, you just see this picture of Thragg's voice actor all smiley and happy. Anyways, back to the present, Thetis is getting all of our heroes and friends hyped up for the coming battle, giving us one of those prideful but inspiring speeches we've all come to love and expect from him. I cannot wait to hear what he says after the gang kicks Thragg's ass. I wonder if the flatness of Thragger's haircut translates to the rest of his body. As they're blasting through space, Mark records a message for Eve just in case something goes wrong. But as he says it out loud to himself, he's all, wait a minute, this is completely pointless because we're gonna win. Well, Mark, now you have to win or else you're gonna look real stupid. And we cut over to the dinner scene that got posted to the Invincible YouTube channel some days ago, and we get some pretty banger interactions. For example, Alan and Zoe continuing the conversation of Alan's favorite snack and how everyone feels about it. And I think I'm just gonna let this next one play.
No way he lives up to the hype.
You haven't seen the reports.
What do they say?
That he lives up to the hype.
Look, this is a funny interaction, Oliver being like, there's no way he lives up to the hype. But it kind of feels like a fan wrote it or something. I mean, the writers are fans in a way, but like, I don't know, it feels like a Reddit fan might have written these lines, you know? You kind of feel where I'm coming from? Either way, as Alan tries to encourage everyone to eat before the big fight, our big white fluffy boy agrees with him. Very enthusiastically.
We must nourish ourselves before battle. We will feast on our enemies' entrails, or they on ours. years.
I would pay top dollar for like a slice of life one-shot comic or like special like edition like episode of Battle Beast trying and struggling to live a normal life. You know, work the office job, go to Burger Mart, hit the pub, stuff like that. Before we get the classic and expected final words right as our heroes enter battle, there's this like short interaction between Nolan and Thetis. Thetis expresses how, after Thragg dies, he won't take a single risk when it comes to hunting down the other Viltromites. He wants to be absolutely certain that the Empire doesn't rise again. Nolan, in a quiet and very serious tone, points out how Oliver and Mark are both half Viltromite. When it cuts back to Thetis, his expression doesn't change at all. Before he can respond, though, the ship enters Viltrum space. I think it is quite obvious that Nolan is kind of skeptical of what Thetis really meant when he spoke about hunting down the remaining Viltromites. I think it's clear Nolan was rather suspicious that Thetis might intend to kill both him and his sons after Thragg dies. And the fact that Thetis didn't respond instantly, that he didn't immediately try to reassure Nolan that his sons were safe, is, well, pretty concerning. Granted, he was barely afforded a second before Telia came over the intercom, but it's still concerning. Hopefully once this is all over, Thetis doesn't brand Mark and Oliver just as much of a threat as the other Viltrumites who were indoctrinated by the Empire. I guess that discussion will just have to wait for after the battle. Hopefully it'll go smooth with the Sinlac poison darts that Zoe will be dishing out during the battle. Unsurprisingly, to me anyway, the gang uses the ring of dead Viltrumites for cover as they approach the planet. You know, it'd be a real shame and inconvenience if Thragg knew they were coming and then like tactically placed his troops inside the ring of bodies to camouflage them in order to ambush them. Oh, great. Yep, it's a surprise attack on the gang's surprise attack. Before anyone can even take a swing at Thragg, like 5 or 6 other Viltrumites emerge from the ring and ambush them as the Regent just floats there and watches. Some notable highlights of the initial conflict include, but are not limited to, Battle Beast's unyielding enthusiasm, the Sinlac poison working successfully, Lucan still thinking he can talk shit, Thetis talking mad shit, and a multitude of other taunts getting interrupted as everybody is thrown around like crazy in the low gravity of space. As Mark is getting his ass beat a little bit, the cavalry arrives in the form of our good buddy Space Racer. This is, what, the 3rd or 4th time he's bailed out the gang with his amazing gun? But it's not the gun the Viltrumites should be worried about this time. It's the herd of Ragnars he brought with him. There is no way that those little things on their neck can keep such relentless beasts contained. There's just no way. Regardless, it is quite an effective distraction as Nolan is given the opportunity to try and draw first blood against Thragg. But he misses, and Thragg gets first blood against Nolan as he punches him down to Viltrum in a matter of seconds with just one swing. This isn't gonna end well, is it? And speaking of the planet Viltrum, the place is not looking very good. I'd go as far to say it looks even worse than after the immediate fallout of the Scourge virus all those years ago. As Nolan stands up and gets a good look at his home, Thragg just appears in front of Argal's statue. Thragg tries to open a dialogue with Nolan, and Nolan decides to go with it for the time being. Perhaps he thinks he can convince Thragg that all this endless struggle just isn't worth it. But unsurprisingly, Thragg asks him to come home and rejoin his people, and most critically, he offers Nolan forgiveness. And Nolan, finally proving that he is an absolute goat, rejects it. He says that Viltrum isn't his home anymore, or any of the Viltrumites' homes. He calls it simply what it is, a tomb. Thragg initially lashes back at Nolan's words, but he regains his composure rather swiftly, saying that they'll restore it and their people to their rightful place in the galaxy. Nolan points out how there's maybe 40 of them left at most, implying that restoring what once was is essentially impossible. And Thragg delivers his rebuttal by saying this:
40 Viltrumites who have fought beside you, who have suffered exactly the same way you have.
And there lies Thragg's error. None of the remaining Viltrumites have suffered like Nolan has. They haven't endured the emotional consequences he's had to, they haven't had to face their own children that they've abandoned, nor have they had to suffer the psychological conflict of helping other people engineer their own extinction. In this scene, Thragg acts like he knows Nolan and acts like he still does. But the truth is, he doesn't. Not anymore. Thragg doesn't know the first thing about who Nolan is now, and that fact is as bright as day during this interaction between these two. Up until this point, the sincerity of Nolan's words and genuineness of his actions haven't been like 100% clear. But this is the moment they finally do become clear. Nolan, the Viltromite soldier, is dead. Now he is Nolan, father of Oliver and Invincible, and repenter of the Viltromite way. And this becomes especially clear when he says this:
"You're not my family anymore."
But despite Nolan's extremely logical and heavy-hitting comebacks, Thragg is no dum-dum. He knows and has observed that Nolan's children are his new #1 priority, and when he questions Nolan if Thetis will be kinder than they were after the war is over, Nolan hesitates for a moment. And Thragg graciously compliments Nolan for not being overly naive about the outcome he's trying to achieve. But let's take a quick intermission, and let's head back up to space and go over a few more highlights of the ongoing battle. Anissa is speedy, Lucan gets greedy, Thetis is still spitting facts. Ragnars are dead, the poison Zoe spreads, and Space Racer almost breathes his last. Thank you for tuning into this intermission of the ongoing conflict around planet Viltrom. Back down to Viltrom's surface, we find ourselves in the palace. Thragg tries to appeal to Nolan's old self and continues hammering at the crack of Nolan's suspiciousness of Thetis' true intentions in regard to his sons. But it doesn't work, and Nolan does what he never would have in the past. He tells Thragg that it doesn't have to end with a violent extinction, and that he could try and get Thetis to agree to terms instead. You did not mishear me, folks. After 4 whole seasons, Omni-Man is saying aloud to Viltrom's regent that it doesn't have to end with violence. Even though Nolan doesn't consider Thragg and the other Viltromites his family anymore, that doesn't necessarily mean he wants them dead. Talk about long-term character development finally paying off. This moment is just so goddamn satisfying. Of course, Thragg continues on about how they will rebuild Viltrom to its former glory, but Nolan simply says that they won't. The two have a stare down, and Thragg's love for his people, if you could even call it that, is revealed plainly when he says,
"The death of any Viltromite leaves a void in me."
Goddamn, that line goes hard as fuck. And so did that punch, since it sent Nolan into space at terminal velocity, and the shockwaves just destroyed anything they touched in, like, I don't know, a 3-4 mile radius? I think if good old Thraggers were to have an alternative career, he'd end up as like a fitness influencer. But it's time to get serious, because Thragg is getting serious. Also, what the hell is wrong with you, Oliver? Did you not watch Star Wars? Don't pull an Anakin and take him now. Poor Oliver loses his arm and jaw as Thragg pulls a Season 3 Conquest. As if on cue, Mark sees what happens and tells Thragg that he was the one who killed Conquest. And now he'll kill Thragg too. When Mark announced that he was the one who killed Conquest, all the other Viltromites stop for a second and gaze at him with almost like a sense of reverence and respect. They do value strength and all that, but my 6th sense is also picking up a hint of fear in their eyes. Mark charges up and hits what might be the single hardest punch he's ever thrown, and Thragg just doesn't react to it at all. Unless you count the impact frames, I guess. Also, can we just stop and appreciate this incredibly accurate throw by Thetis for a moment? God damn, that was a good throw. And speaking of moments to appreciate, Thragg bitch slaps the fuck out of Mark. I legit burst out into laughter upon my first viewing of this episode when this happened. I just heard the slap sound effect in my head and I just started dying. Here, listen, it works too well. But as Thragg goes to chase down Mark, Battle Beast intercepts him, and it's time for an epic showdown of the ages. Oh, never mind. Gotta be honest, Battle Beast, kinda letting the team down here, man. You got your jetpack destroyed, and now you're just floating in space. Again. Nolan finally makes it back to the fight and comes up with, quite the plan. He has Space Racer shoot directly at Viltrom as he, Mark, and Thetis fly right through the whole planet, pulverize the core, and literally destroy the entire fucking planet. I don't even have the words. As usual, folks, there's a layer of irony here that most of you probably won't even realize. As I've mentioned multiple times, Lee Pace, who voices Thragg, also plays Emperor Cleon in the show Foundation. And in the 2nd season of Foundation, in the second to last episode, just like this one, Lee Pace witnesses a planet being destroyed. I'm sorry, but the odds of that are just too damn small. The odds that Lee Pace played 2 different galactic emperors in 2 different shows, and in the second to last episode, in both of those shows, a planet gets destroyed. That just, no, odds are too small. That cannot happen. Not allowed. Illegal. Only difference between that scene and this one is that in Foundation, Emperor Cleon wanted to destroy the planet, whereas Thragg was, crying when Viltrum got destroyed. Look, I am no easy forgiver when it comes to forgiving crimes, especially like the ones the Viltrumites have committed. But Thragg crying as he watched his home planet get destroyed had me intrigued. Luke said to me earlier on Wednesday that Thragg seems a lot more sentimental than the other Viltrumites. The others take pride and love their people and all that, but in reality, it's their strength and power that they love. I've no doubt Thragg feels the same way too, but it seems that he has a genuine, actual love of Viltrum and its people, not a false, forced, indoctrinated love. I really want to know what Thragg's big secrets are, how he's so strong, and basically, why did Argal choose him specifically to raise and train to be the ultimate Viltromite? What makes Thragg so passionate about his planet, people, and purpose? Sure, Argal definitely played a role in making Thragg the way he is, but there's definitely a lot more to it. I would make a claim that my writer senses are accurate for the most part, but after that whole General Telia being the traitor situation, I think I'll reserve the boasting for now. I have a couple of theories, but I'm gonna keep them to myself. Thetis tries to address the other Viltrumites after their home is destroyed, but he is swiftly interrupted. Permanently. Bye-bye, Thetis. We will miss you and your constant truth-spitting. Thragg is all but done messing around. No more pleasantries, no more dialogue, nothing. He just goes utterly ballistic. And to be fair, I would also go ballistic if some guy exploded my house right in front of me. But it's just an absolute slaughter fest from here. Alan, Zoe, and Space Racer are forced to fall back, Thragg impales Nolan, and he headbutts Mark so hard that he gets knocked out for a couple of weeks. It's real bad. Thragg doesn't kill Mark though, saying that there's already too few of them. And despite all the cruelty and horror Thragg has wrought, I think killing his own kind genuinely does upset him, even if they're traitors. I think he was being absolutely honest when he said that like a hole forms in his heart each time a Viltromite dies. However, I think his overriding emotion right now is anger and hatred, considering he's full on, I killed Thetis too quick and I'll make you suffer mode. Before Nolan got impaled, Mark asked how they can possibly beat him, and Nolan gives Mark that look of, I don't think we can. What did I say? Last episode, our heroes were brought low, then they rose up and found their strength again. Now they reached even higher toward their ultimate goal, and they fell even harder this time. Either way, Thragg and the other Viltrumites vanish, and in a few weeks, Nolan and Mark recover from their injuries. With Thetis dead, Alan has been appointed the temporary leader of the Coalition. And despite all the bad things that happened, Alan does look hella drippy now. Okay, no, I can't even enjoy that after all that's happened. I can't. Even though Thragg has left the screen, his presence has not left the air. He just decimated all of them, and I don't think he even shed a drop of blood, not once. After Mark wakes up, Alan takes him to see Nolan and Oliver. Nolan just woke up the previous day, but Oliver is still out and inside an intensive medical care chamber thingy. Mark questions why Thragg let them live, and I think he definitely let Mark live, but not Nolan. Nolan got lucky. I think Thragg had absolutely every intention for him to die. The episode ends with our remaining heroes discussing a big problem that's developed. The Viltrumites cannot be found anywhere. Every sector is working together to sweep their areas to find them, but no one can find them. Considering what Thragg said about how there's so few left of them now, I can only think of one place that they might go to possibly fix that problem.
They've gone to Earth.
But there you have it, my friends. Invincible Season 4, Episode 7. No post-credits, no conquest memes, no nothing. just the lingering fear and uncertainty that Thragg has created. Where the fuck do I even start? I know there's gonna be a lot of people saying, if Thragg's so strong, why did he retreat last episode? And yeah, why don't we get that conversation out of the way already? Actually, no, you know what? I know you haven't signed your apology form yet. We'll skip the entire conversation by having you sign that, and all will be forgiven. Be sure to post your apology forms to my public Discord, link in description. In a strange way, this episode of Invincible reminds me of The Day of Black Sun from Avatar: The Last Airbender. I mean, think about it for a moment. These episodes have very similar narrative story beats. Our heroes find themselves having great success and finding a weakness that the enemy has, and decide to aim higher than they ever have aimed before, attacking the enemy on their home turf. Our main character says something to the person he loves before the big battle and works up his confidence that this will finally be the end of this horrible conflict. The heroes bring a secret weapon to hopefully even the odds. In the case of Avatar, it was the submarines, and in Invincible, it's the Sinlac poison darts. When our protagonists arrive, they find the enemy surprisingly prepared to fend off their attack despite the enemy's weakened state. And then, while the battle rages on, a former antagonist confronts the true main antagonist. I mean, come on, the similarities are very, very striking. And speaking of the true main antagonist, holy moly, his name is Thragg. Thragg is such an unbelievably heavy presence in this episode. Each one of his actions creates so much gravity. Thragg's actions and him as a character also play very well to Lee Pace's strengths as an actor. He is excellent at being a calm, intimidating, and very commanding player on the board. As such, when he's acting in a scene where his character just absolutely snaps and goes completely mental, it really makes you fear for the good guys. The fact that Mark, Slayer of Conquest, tried to run away with a look of fear on his face really just sells and reinforces how powerful and terrifying Thragg is. As to why Thragg is so strong, I literally have no idea. I get that he was trained from birth to be the ultimate warrior and all of that, but there is no way that that fact alone is enough to make his stats so terrifyingly stacked. I mean, the dude moved 2 utterly massive chunks of rock like it was nothing. Amazing scene to reveal his distress and the tears and all that, by the way. That shit was awesome. He just dodges anyone who tries to attack him, or he takes them down in 2 moves or less, and is unimpressed by everything that has been brought to the table. Thragg means serious, ungodly business, and we have 1 more episode left to see the full extent of that business. But what do you think? Do you think Thragg would become an easy kill if he got poisoned by the Sinlac darts? Or do you think even that wouldn't be enough? Do you think he's gonna hold Earth hostage and try and make it the new Viltrum? Or do you think he's gonna take a more stealthy approach to conquering the Earth? I don't know, but be sure to leave all your thoughts in the comments down below. We're nearly at the end of another season of this incredible show, and thank the high heavens, the quality and enjoyment hasn't faltered in the slightest. I'm not sure if the same can be said about my videos about Invincible, but if you still think I'm nailing it like how Thragg nailed Mark's head with his own, be sure to leave a like and sub. I'd greatly appreciate that. And of course, if you really like the way I do things and you want to show me a little bit of extra support, please consider becoming a channel member or checking out the Patreon. Not only do you get access to a whole bunch of exclusive rewards and you get to watch my videos ad-free, but you also directly support me in the process and literally help me keep this channel alive and help me keep the lights on. Literally, that's what you do when you become a member or a patron. So huge shout out to the members and patrons, but that is gonna do it for now. Thank you all so much for watching, and yeah,